CEREC on single visit dentistry. In this video, let's explore what CEREC is and how CEREC makes single visit dentistry possible. CEREC simply stands for Ceramic Reconstruction, CEREC, Ceramic Reconstruction. So, in a way, CEREC has revolutionized the way the dental restorations are being made, and by how has it revolutionized? When we typically have a requirement for a dental restoration, be it a crown or a veneer or a laminate, how it is typically done is we can compare it like the digital way versus the analog way, right? So the conventional way, if it's the analog way, when we go visit our dentist, the dentist will make what is called an impression of a teeth. What an impression is? Impression is basically a negative replica of how our teeth are. It is captured in a material. The doctor will take a tray made of a metal or a plastic, use some material like a putty, light body, like a rubbery material. That rubbery material is taken into the patient's mouth. So, and allow the material then sets inside the patient's mouth. Typically takes a couple of minutes for the material to set, and once the material sets, the doctor removes that particular material from the patient's mouth. So that's what. So that gives the negative of the patient's teeth. Now in CEREC, we completely take that negative impression material out of the equation here. We don't take an impression at all. Instead of making an impression, the digital way is we capture the patient's teeth and the oral structures real time with a video camera. How it happens is we have something called the camera here. So this is the impression. So instead of the conventional material, we use a digital tool to capture the teeth and the oral structures digitally. Now what happens is, in the impression, we have a negative of the teeth that is being formed. Here we don't have the negative formed here. We directly have the positive 3D reconstructions of our teeth real time that forms in the system. So that's the difference between forming an impression. So in an impression, what happens? Once we have the negative, then we will pour a model either in a plaster of Paris or a stone to have your teeth model like this formed. So the negative is then another model is formed to form the positive. In CEREC, we don't have this, we completely eliminate the step of a negative and then forming a positive model. We directly scan the tooth, forms a real-time 3D reconstructions of our tooth real time. So one, it's very quick. We don't have an impression material inside the mouth, so there is no gag, there is no unpleasant taste in the mouth. Very quick, real time. We don't have to wait for the impression material to set in the mouth and then form a model which takes up to 30 minutes to 40 minutes to set. So it takes 1 hour to form the positive in the analog way. In the digital way, it's real time, quick. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, we have the full-time positive model there. So that's the advantage of CEREC. So that's one advantage of CEREC. So do we stop here? Does the CEREC advantage stop here, or have we got more? A lot more is what I would say. The next, what happens is, so once this happens, in the analog way, what we do is in this model, then we pour a wax up of the tooth. So we make the entire tooth in wax and we reconstruct the tooth. So it's manually wax is added to manually reconstruct the tooth form. Once that manual reconstruction of the tooth form happens, what we typically do is, so that manual reconstruction of the tooth form, we take it out and we do a process what is called as investing. Basically, that wax is made to form into a mold. How we form the mold? By a process called investing. Once we form the mold, so that invested portion is kept in a furnace and wax is heated. So the wax melt, forming the space of the tooth there, which is the mold of the tooth is formed. Right? So we form a wax the wax is invested, and then we heat the wax for the wax to melt away and vaporize, and then we have a mold or the form of the tooth in the investment. So that is, and then what we do is we take metal, we melt the metal, and then we do what is called a casting process, and then we cast the metal into the mold. So basically a wax is converted into a space in which the metal is molten, and then that molten metal is casted onto the space. So where we have the tooth form that we formed first in wax in actually metal now. So this metal is then cleaned, shaped, polished, and then we keep adding ceramic layer by layer, step by step, to form the final tooth in place. So that's how the entire tooth is made. So that's the analog way of making the tooth. In CEREC, you remember 5 minutes we got the positive model made. So once we have the positive reconstruction of the tooth structure made, there is a artificial intelligent directed software which recreates the tooth design to that is the best suitable to our natural tooth shape, and also that best fits our natural tooth and also the opposing tooth. So instead of going through the entire analog way of processing the tooth, with digital technology, we design the tooth using a software. So what takes more than a couple of days for us to actually create a tooth, digitally we design the tooth in less than 2 minutes time. And once we digitally design the tooth in 2 minutes time, which happens here, this digital design is fed to what is called a milling machine, which is MCXL or the MCX in CEREC's terminology. What the milling machine does, it takes in the digital data from CEREC. Once it takes in the digital data from the CEREC, the milling machine, we have either a blank, which is a ceramic blank made from either Germany or Swiss, is what is the is German made or a Swiss made ceramic blank is what we use. It's either it's an Emax blank or a zirconia blank. So that blank is kept into the milling machine. This digital data of the design, which has been digitally created, is being fed to the milling machine, and the milling machine, what it does is it reduces the ceramic blank to make to the exact 3D accurate design that is precise to less than 200 microns. So now the entire digital data fed to the milling machine, we have the actual crown that is being made. So that to make the crown, it's going to take about less than 15 minutes to actually make the crown. So that crown is made in about 15 minutes time. So once a crown is made, so the crown is made through what this process is called a CAM process, a machining process. We have a milling machine that machines and mills the ceramic block to the designed shape. So once we design, it takes about 15 minutes. Once we design and mill the crown, the milled crown is then a process, we do a strengthening process. It's called either a sintering process or a crystallization process based on what material we use. So that process typically takes another 20 minutes, 15 minutes to 20 minutes time max, where colors can be added to give lifelike natural translucency to the tooth. And so then the crown is ready to be fixed. So basically, instead of taking a whole couple of days to do this entire process the analog way, in digital way, impressioning in less than 5 minutes, design a couple of minutes to design. Once we design, the digital milling process, making crowns, is about 15 minutes time, and then we add colors to the crown, strengthen the crown by either the crystallization process or the sintering process, and then once those colors are added, we get the crowns in the natural lifelike translucency. And then once we get the crowns, All this is there when the patient is sitting on the chair. In the analog way, you can't make the patient sit for a couple of days when the crown comes back, right? It's about 45 minutes time, the entire process is ready. So once the patient can be on the chair, check the crowns, check for fit, check for color, because it is digitally made, extremely precise, because there are no metal, lifelike translucency. So there is very little adjustments that is being made. There are no corrections that are required. Get the crowns out. All the process takes about 60 minutes time. We fit the crown. So it's a extremely convenient, comfortable workflow, not just for the patients, for the doctor also. So happy patient, happy us. So that's what the CEREC digital workflow is all about. So basically scanning, designing, milling, and then restoring the patients. In 4 easy steps, all in 60 minutes, is what CEREC, which is Ceramic Reconstructions digital workflow is. Thank you. This is Dr. Arun signing off, and bye-bye.
வீடியோ பிடிச்சிருக்கா லைக் பட்டன் கிளிக் பண்ணுங்க, சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணுங்க, பெல் ஐகான் கிளிக் பண்ணுங்க. இந்த மாதிரி வீடியோஸ் உங்களுக்கு வரும். தேங்க்யூ.